Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. This video is to bring you a closer look at the Soss. This is their part number 204CUS26D. This is a card or a package of a pair of Soss hinges. And the name Soss is synonymous with what we would call invisible or concealed hinges. And when you buy one, you're buying a pair of them. You're getting a pair of hinges with the fasteners attached down to the C or the cardboard packaging that it's attached down to. Also, what's behind here are installation instructions, which we'll go over as well. I have a pair of the hinges removed from their packaging. And the 204 is one in a series of different sized concealed hinges. The part number refers to the size, really, in the 200 series. 204 is towards the smaller end. They go all the way up to the 220, which is the quite large hinge. And the hallmark of the Soss hinge is that it is completely concealed when the door is closed. When the door and frame is closed, it's concealed. That is a very attractive advantage to many people who sell doors and hardware, because their client base would like something that is concealed. You don't need to see it. Installing Soss or using Soss for that advantage does not come without its pitfalls that we need to navigate around, and let's talk about that. First and foremost, the pitfall would be, of course, that you have to have not more than a maximum dimension from the pull side of the door and frame to where the mortise for the hinge starts, because if that dimension is too great, then when the hinge goes to articulate into its opening, you simply won't be able to get it out and around the thickness of the material. That's number one. Number two, you'll note that as I move this hinge back and forth, if you focus on the silver stud there, the rivet, let's imagine that that represents the vertical axis of pivoting. Okay, so when the door opens and closes, that silver rivet there would be akin to the center line of the barrel of your hinge, or the vertical axis of pivoting of your pivot. Well, in hinges and pivots, that dimension stays quite fixed. But when you have a Soss hinge, that position of the vertical axis of pivoting floats through the opening a little bit. So if you have hardware such as door closers, but really, namely, overhead stops, holders, friction stops, or any derivative or variation of that, you need to be sure to order that hardware and specify the hinge, the Soss hinge you're using, so that they can provide to you the proper templating. And generally there's an upcharge for that as well when you order those overhead stops. Be mindful of that. You don't use the normal templating for this. Now, the 204 is available in every basic finish. Your brasses, your bronze, your chromes, oil rubbed, black. They can do gold color in some of their hinges as well. Okay. Now, the next thing probably to do would be to talk about the installation aspect of this. And let's do that. Let's switch to the screen view where we can take a look at the supporting documentation. Okay, so here is the item that we are looking at. The 204 is the hinge. The C in the part number simply stands for carded, and then US26D stands for Satin Chrome, the finish. So the Soss 204 for use in wood and metal applications for doors that are 3/4 to 1 inch thick. The model 204 is made of zinc and steel materials. Nylon links add strength and durability. This cabinet-style hinge will provide superior appearance and durability. Our hinges are found in many applications where flush fit, compact size, smooth operation are necessary features. I would even add to that heavy doors that are heavy. Soss hinges are very well suited when it comes to heavier applications. Soss Invisible hinges open a full 180 degree and are a single action hinge. They don't double act, they just swing the door from 0 to 90 and past that. Okay. Minimum material thickness is 3/4 inch. Now you can certainly install this on a thicker door, but when you go to a thicker door, like inch and a quarter, inch and 3/8, inch and a half, inch and 3/4, you're simply going to use a larger hinge to account for the fact that the weight of the door would increase as the thickness increases. They indicate the screws that are included. Machine screws can be ordered, but those have to be specified. This will include only wood screws, and they indicate that those wood screws are a number 7 by 1.25 inches, and that you would use either a 51 or a 39 size drill bit from your drill index set of bits, depending on whether it's soft or a hardwood species of wood. Okay, you're going to want a little smaller hole when you're dealing with a softwood, and a larger hole when you're dealing with a hardwood species of lumber. And the softwood will give a little bit more, that's why the hole is smaller. And in drill size drill bits, the larger the number, the smaller the drill bit. Unit of measure carded. When you buy one, we're going to ship you 1 pair or 2 hinges. Dimensional properties would be up next to measure on our hinge. So the C dimension, they have that below, is 2 3/8, and having putting my tape measure on the hinge, it indeed is 2 3/8. So the C dimension is important. When you're machining the material, the I dimension is important. Obviously the H dimension, the F dimension is all important as well. B is important to know, but let's jump to the template. And we're going to go over all of these links here, but the template would be the first one to take a look at. Now, when it comes to machining and mortising this material, there's really only one cardinal rule that you must adhere to, and that is literally right here. So from the preparation, you cannot exceed 1/8 of an inch from the edge of the leaf to the, let's say, the face of the door. This is the door or the frame. You cannot exceed 1/8 of an inch. Otherwise, again, the door won't move out and around what you're trying to install it onto. So you can, again, install this on a thicker door, but you just can't exceed that 1/8 of an inch. That's the only rule that cannot be violated. Now, would the door open a little bit if you exceeded that 1/8 of an inch? Yeah, it just depends on how far away from 1/8 of an inch you got. It may not open much at all. So be mindful that that's the important thing. Now, mortising for this stuff is really super easy. So if you're going to mortise for it, really all that I would do, and I've mortised for these, is I would take my center line dimension from the hinge, or however you prefer to work with it. I would work with a center line dimension, but you could work with a top dimension, I suppose. But you're going to make 2 preparations with your router. The first will be for the body of the hinge, and that's going to be this portion here. So they've already told us our dimension. Well, they're telling us here they want a 3/4 inch mortise, deep mortise. So that would suffice for that. But on the drawing, they told us that our H dimension was 23/32. So yeah, sure, 3/4 inch. That's going to be your mortise, 3/4 inch. The height they're telling us is 1.25 inches. We know the overall height's 2 3/8, so you can derive where you're going to do this body prep. The next prep you'll do will be for the plate, or just the exposed portion, 2 3. Pardon me, we did not tell you the width. 1/2 inch would be the width for the prep for the body, and then the plate as well, 1/2 inch wide, 2 3/8 overall length, and then the thickness of that, they're telling us that it's 1/4 inch. And that would be the I dimension here, and that's 1/4 inch. So now we've really digested exactly how we go about mortising for this material. Don't exceed the 1/8 of an inch, and you've got your dimensions. 1/2 inch 2-flute carbide router bit is easy to come by. You'll need a plunge router, is how you'd want to do this. A template would be handy. You can certainly make one or purchase one from Soss. Not a problem there at all. So very typical and common sort of machining. A lot of people shy away from Soss hinges because they feel that the mortising portion is too complex. It's not. Is it more work than a hinge? Sure, because there's an extra step, but it's not any more difficult. And in fact, I would say that it's partially easier because you don't have to square the corners out. You make one route pass is what you do. And a plunge router would be certainly what you're going to want. Or you might be able to drill a hole and then insert your router bit into it and then move along. Okay. Now let's close that and go to the next document, and we'll just start from left to right. This is the hinge sizing chart. This is called a nomograph in the world of Soss. They call it a nomograph. That allows you to determine what hinge model you require from the manufacturer and how many of them. And the way that they do that is you'll start with your pencil on your door width, and let's just say we have a 36-inch wide door, somewhere down about here, and that it's 150 pounds, somewhere about here. Let's say it's a 3080. Take your line from here, intersect 150, go up to the nomograph, and then go across, and you'll find that you can use 4 of the 218s or 3 of the 220s, and that would be the hinge to use. Okay, the 218 is an incredibly common hinge, and if your door is 1 3/4 inch, that in this case would be the hinge you would use, because that's 1 3/4 inch. This is referred to all the time by me. I know if it's 3070, it's going to be 3 218s. But then when the weight gets unruly, that's when we really start to look at what we're dealing with. So if you were to use that same 3-foot wide door and your door was 400 pounds, you're going to be way up to 5 218s or 4 220s, depending on the door thickness. So I had mentioned earlier, a hallmark that they didn't mention was the Soss hinge line being able to handle excessively heavy doors. I mean, what hinge manufacturer? Well, Stanley does, but what most hinge manufacturers don't have a chart that leads up to 500 pounds. So you're going to be able to handle most everything that you can throw at a door with a Soss hinge. And it was rumored to have been said by, someone at the Soss company, I don't care how heavy the door is, keep throwing Soss hinges at it. That's reasonably true. We have hung 14 gauge steel doors. We've hung 16 or 18 gauge steel doors where the client has applied laminate to the door. Where the client has applied granite to the door, okay, in an in-swinging application. So that worked out just fine because the laminate was on the ingress side. So that door became excessively heavy, but the Soss hinges took it without any trouble at all. And you can read the instructions on the nomograph. We won't go through that here. No reason to do so. Okay, let's go to the next link. Cased jam detail. So this is a very interesting document because it does show you what you may be dealing with in terms of conflict of the hinge. If the catalog dimension E is exceeded, the door may not open. See appropriate catalog for this dimension. So you really have to be mindful what you're dealing with when it comes to that dimension of where you, and in this case it's 1/8 of an inch. And you'll have to note, because where that vertical axis of pivoting is, it's down here when the door is closed. You're not going to get out and around casing. So be mindful that you're not going to swing this to 180 degree. You're just not. It's not going to work with a Soss hinge. So be mindful that your wall condition absolutely limits the ability to use a Soss hinge. Okay. Clearance detail, that's another really cool document where the manufacturer shows different ways to arrange how you might work that applied trim on the outside to accomplish what you need to accomplish. And I'll leave that to you for your review. This is a document that the manufacturer hands out often when a client has these questions. Template we went over, hinge location. Now that's interesting. What they're talking about here is where to locate the hinges. So unlike standard butt hinges in North America, or at least in the United States and Canada, if you go with 3, they're telling you to put 2 at the top. They're telling you to bias the middle hinge 1/3 of the way down from the top of the door is basically what they're telling you to do. Okay. Now, what I would do, and it's never come to my attention that it was a problem, but I would confirm with your door manufacturer that they would not have a problem warrantying your door when you install Soss hinges, as Soss recommends. Let's say your door is warped and you've installed these hinges according to the Soss manufacturer's recommendations. You want to make sure that that's not violated the limitations of the warranty of your wood door, because wood doors are prone to warp, and you don't want the wood door manufacturer to, you don't want to install the hinges incorrectly to keep the door, to prevent the door from standard operation, and you don't want to put anyone in the position of a denied warranty claim if you have warped doors because you don't have a hinge in the middle of the door. So be mindful of that. I suppose if that became an issue, you might just opt for 4 hinges. That should be quite sufficient for any wood door manufacturer. 2 would certainly be a problem, there's no question. If your door is 60-inch or taller, you need an additional hinge for every 30 additional inch. 2 is going to be a problem unless your door is less than 5 foot tall. Okay, so very handy, very helpful. Now, router guide systems are mentioned down here, and what we'll do is let's skip to the link here to the manufacturer's page, where we can pull up not only all of the Soss products that we sell, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to their catalog. And when we open up that catalog, we'll be able to find the templates that they manufacture for their hinges. And we do, sure indeed, sell these templates. And I can only tell you that I would encourage you to review this. It's on page 46 of this catalog. They make these templates for these models listed here. We've got the 204, so they make a template for it. And basically, as you look at this picture, when you're going to do the body prep first, you leave these pins in place. And when you want to do the plate prep, you remove those pins. So the preparation in their template is directly related to the router guide bushing and lock nut. That diameter of the router guide is directly related to the size of the prep you need to accomplish in the door, and therefore the size of the prep they've done in the template. Now, I've never purchased one of these for my own use. I have always just manufactured my own when I've done this sort of work. And once you make a template for a 218, you have it forever. But some people just want to order the part from the manufacturer. Most people would just want to order the kit from the factory that they know is going to work. And what these kits do, whether it be a hinge butt template kit or a Soss hinge template kit or a lock installation kit, it removes a lot of the potential for error. It ritualizes the process, meaning step 1, step 2, step 3, and you can really make a successful installation of it. And with these templates, you can make transitioning to the jam an easier process because you don't need to remeasure again. Once you prep the door and you've got your template set, you lift that off the door, make your adjustment for the frame, and then you just mortise. Very, very ritualized, so I do recommend it. They've got some bits here that they can sell you. They've got the guides that they can sell you. They have reinforcements for steel doors. When we did that project for my client with the 14-gauge door, I know that the manufacturer didn't make their own reinforcements. They simply, the manufacturer of the steel door that is, they simply ordered the reinforcements from Soss. It's just faster, easier, cheaper to have the manufacturer send them to you. So this catalog is handy because it will show you these related products, but a trip through the entire catalog is most valuable because you can go through everything that is Soss related. Not only the history of Soss, but what they do, what they're all about, the products that they sell. Okay, I would very much recommend a trip through this catalog because you will become edified by learning more about the Soss hinge. They can do fire rated, they can do electric power transfer. Size options. Square corner material for fire rated applications. That's a lot easier, obviously, in a steel door than a radiused prep. Specialty derivatives of the material for different applications. Concealed closers. We don't sell these often, but when we do, we seem to sell a whole mess of them all at once. So a 218 or a 216 or a 220, you can put a spring hinge. We did a salon in the Gold Coast neighborhood of Chicago, and yeah, they put these Soss closers on all of their salon doors. Worked out really well for them. Nomograph, barrel hinges. If you're doing very small applications for cabinetry, these barrel hinges are quite small. The A dimension, the diameter. They provide in millimeter, so you've got to get up to a BH124 before it's half of an inch, basically. A quadrant hinge, don't use that often. That would be for a specialty application. Door holders, and then back to those templates. Let's wrap up this video on camera. And one final look at the hinge. Okay, and then the screws that are included. There would be, of course, 8 of these number 7 screws included with your hardware. In decades of selling Soss hinges, there has never been a known instance of a failed Soss hinge. There was one instance not too long ago, actually, earlier this year in 2020. Client came in and said his Soss hinge failed. I says, I've never heard those words said before. Well, as we talked about it more, what happened was it is and the client he literally brought the hinge, and I think it was a 208, and it was literally bent. The layered pieces of steel were bent like this from one leaf to the other. And I said to the client, I've never seen this before. What happened? Did someone do chin-ups on the top of the door? And he said, no. It was a cabinet, and the children climbed up and sat on top of the cabinet is what happened. That's the only time a client has replaced a hinge because of a failure, but that certainly would not be considered a failure in that sort of regard. So I do consider the integrity of the Soss quality and its capability of handling very heavy doors and unusual applications to be untainted. If you have any questions on the Soss, this is your part number 204. And a satin chrome finish or any other Soss product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.